I mean, if you get like a real, apocalyptic unwinding of traditional finance, then those VIX calls will print very hard and they'll just compensate you, right? But if you
Mhm.
don't, you take a fixed amount of damage to your financial position without missing out on the bottom of crypto, which I do think is a significant danger. And another thing is like the number of people who are arguing against me and saying I'm wrong and stupid and it's so obvious, like that is again a bullish signal because again, markets will bottom when most participants think that the bottom isn't in. So the more people like it's different.
Ever since the Fed started quantitative tightening, is pretty much that was my indicator, obviously, on a lot of people that things are were about to take a turn. A lot of people came up here and talked about a bunch of different indicators that they personally use. Personally, I'm a guy that has been in finance for a long time and crypto for a long time as well, from the days of when people used to buy pizzas with Bitcoin and all of that stuff. But like technicals are always they're indicators. They indicate what has happened. They lag. And so it's up to you to use your judgments to consider the macroeconomic context and whether or not, your ideas for entering a market is coinciding with how the market is possibly able to go. One thing that Naka touched on really, that really resonated with me was he mentioned that there are a lot of people that are super bearish right now and a lot of people that are thinking that we have a lot of a downside to go. And technically, obviously, that's possible. But we have to look at probably what's plausible. So many things have already happened. We've already priced in a lot of pain. And so there's this sentiment in me that's looking at a lot of different things and wondering, how many other people are thinking the same thing? So it's good to hear people talk about it, but what he said made sense. The market does often bottom out when most of the people are wrong about it, not right. And so my personal thing is this level, obviously, we're going to see a lot of volatility because until inflation shows the slightest sign of coming down and not continually going up, I don't think that inflation is our biggest enemy right now. It's really just driven by the energy prices, which will eventually dissipate. And we have to consider a lot of macroeconomic factors. In fact, oil in the Western world is, prices at the pump are going up because obviously oil is scarce, but there are a lot of production that's going to be coming on stream in the West, and we need to really take a look at that over the next few years. There are historic deposits found in Guyana. There is a bunch more. They're relaxing some of the sanctions on Venezuela. All of these things are obviously things that the feds are trying to use to be able, not the feds, but the government is trying to use to be able to control the record high inflation. And it's my personal opinion, given the entire context that we're looking at right now, is that I believe that equities will bottom before inflation peaks. And the reason that I believe that, this is just my personal opinion, is just that it would make more sense for that situation to happen because by the time that people have realized that inflation is, it's not that bad, it's going to come down, it's going to stabilize. Do we believe the Fed is actually going to pull off a soft landing? It's definitely possible. We've handled worse things before. And do we believe that if at this point in time we have experienced enough pain in the market, has retail actually capitulated? Well, I mean, I've been looking at the on-chain as well, and I can definitely tell you that there are a lot of signs that they have left the market since March of this year. So a lot of people, and then we also had the fall of major players as well, the exiting of Tesla. All of these things, to me, actually are bullish signs because there's a clearage of excess leverage in the system, weaker hands, and all of this stuff. But it's a market at the end of the day. Nothing is going to go up continuously, and nothing is going to behave exactly as we believe it's gonna.
So
So, market.
crypto, I want to stop you there because you said something a minute ago that stuck out to me. I only have 2 more minutes left in the space, but you said you think the market,
Hmm.
you thinking, what did you say? The market would bottom before inflation peaks? Most of the smart people that I'm listening to think that this CPI print was the peak and we're going to be going straight down. And you can already see commodities crashing across the board, food
I agree.
especially. So why would you not think that the commodity market and or I guess I should say the inflation CPI has already peaked?
Well, I mean, I think that it's not going to happen immediately, just like that. I don't think 1 month is enough time to decide whether or not the inflation has peaked. That's my personal opinion, but I do believe that a sign that it's actually they're getting it under control. I think that's a positive sign in the direction of the Fed's policy. That's what I think, which is why I believe that it's possible that we could have already. I mean, I'm not saying we have already experienced the bottom, but a lot of people are saying it was not the bottom as well. So there are these people on this side saying that. And usually, you know what I mean, when people get a lot very, very bearish on the general sentiment is that we have not bottomed yet, or inflation has. I mean, personally, I believe I'm on your side with with equity, with inflation, more or less peaking, believing it was the peak. But I guess we're only gonna see that in time. And so that's why I'm a little bit hesitant of saying
Quite as bad. So I'm predicting a potentially 2 to 5 year time for stocks to potentially get to a new all-time high. I'm in agreement with you, and that's ultimately why I think even though there are all sorts of signs of capitulation in crypto, I would love to be long in crypto here because of the macro risk. It's not acceptable amount of risk for me because it's literally only halfway down by my estimations the stock market. So if it has another whole halfway down to go, then there's just no way to expect that crypto is going to be a great long in this spot. That's just my 2 cents. It seems like a lot of people agree, which is a little bit concerning, but I do have to wrap it up.
You've got kind of like lower time frame RSI, stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, none of this is going to be able to tell you back down to, very low risk levels. I think maybe you allocate to crypto there fully and then buy some VIX calls. Because if that kind of like capitulation on TradFi comes, you print on the VIX calls. And if it doesn't come, your VIX calls expire worthless, but at least you didn't miss out on crypto. So that's that's one thing you could do.
Yeah, because I heard there was a shit ton of X calls within at like 50, a bit of 50 or something. I don't remember what the expiration is though.
Well, but I mean, if you get like a real, apocalyptic unwinding of traditional finance, then those VIX calls would print very hard and they'll just compensate you, right? But if you don't, you take a fixed amount of damage to your financial position without missing out on the bottom of crypto, which I do think is a significant danger. And another thing is like the number of people who are arguing against me and saying I'm wrong and stupid and it's so obvious, like that is again a bullish signal because again, markets will bottom when most participants think that the bottom isn't in. So, the more it's difficult because you can't just straightforwardly counter trend sentiment. But when I'm hearing and hear people saying, "Oh, that there hasn't been a capitulation in crypto," it's like, holy shit, dude, time to get long. Like, have you seen what's happened? But anyway,
Kevin O'Leary actually said that on CNBC. Believe it or not, he was obviously probably wrong about that. I don't think he looks at all the